Hello, and welcome back to Our Oceans Are Dying, brought to you by The Tide. I'm Alejandro.
And I'm Justin. On this week's segment, we will be discussing not only our big blue sea's beauty and importance, but also how and why single-use plastics are killing the sea life.
Is that so?
Why yes, it is. Our ocean's expiration date is practically set for 2050.
Well, I'll just have to see it to believe it. Let's roll the footage.
Oh, well there goes my appetite.
Ditto. Let's go over some of the numbers. There are at least 800 known species of marine life affected by waste, and the majority of that is plastic.
On Earth, there are around 9 billion tons of plastic, with only about a quarter of that in use. The other 3/4 are in landfills in natural environments. This plastic tends to be very destructive to sea life, internally and externally.
Justin, what do you mean by internally and externally?
Well, let's start with internally. For example, about half of all sea turtles have ingested plastic. This can cause severe blockages, leading to suffocation or starvation.
Corals that come into contact with plastic have about an 89% chance to contract a disease. That makes sense, but what about external damage?
Why yes, this doesn't just affect the creatures under the water, but also above. It's the entire ecosystem at stake here. Up to 1 million seabirds die from plastic ingestion a year. Roughly 60% of seabirds have eaten plastic, but that number is estimated to rise to 99% by 2050. But what's causing it?
That is a fantastic question, and I'm glad you asked. Today, there are around 300 million tons of polymer. 146 million tons is used for packaging, and 141 million tons were thrown out. Of the plastic that is being thrown out, it will have one of four fates: recycling, burning, landfills, or nature.
When plastic is burnt, it can be an effective method of getting rid of it. However, if high enough temperatures are not achieved, like in developing countries, noxious chemicals and microplastics are produced.
When plastic finds its way to nature, it stays there for a very long time. Relatively few plastics are biodegradable.
What seems to be causing the slow, agonizing death of our ocean is the sheer amount of plastic we generate. India creates about 14 million pounds of plastic waste a year just by themselves. They had a plan in motion to reduce their plastic waste by banning 6 kinds of single-use plastics, but the plan was stopped. They claimed that their proposed plan was lacking any alternatives for the banned plastics and would harm the economy in many sectors. In response to this, Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, proposed a new plan to curb the amount of plastic used instead of outright banning it.
Another example of an outside force affecting a plastic ban would be the small Florida city called Coral Gables. There they attempted to ban polystyrene, which is essentially styrofoam, from their restaurants. A group known as the Florida Retail Federation arrived out of the woodwork and pointed out a state rule that banned the government from deciding what restaurants could do with their polystyrene material. Coral Gables is just one case of many where lobbyist groups and other organizations have prevented a plastic ban from occurring. There are currently 17 states that have a ban on banning plastics. 4 of them this year have created preemptions to plastic bans.
But the question still stands. How do we fix it, Alejandro?
So, with 300 million tons of plastic being created annually, roughly only 9% of all plastic that has been produced is recycled. We could fix this if everyone just made their best effort to cut down on their everyday use of plastics. Everyone just needs to know their everyday plastics that they use and count them to realize their footprints.
Recycling is the key to solving plastic pollution. Reducing all your single-use plastic consumption and reusing recycled materials is our key. A way you could help this is the circular economy model. This helps to minimize waste by planning in advance how materials could be reused instead. Collectively, everyone must reduce their everyday use of plastic. You could also help by doing your part if you say no to single-use plastic. If things don't change by 2050, our oceans could possibly contain a larger amount of plastic than fish, and that's just gross.
We'd like to thank you for tuning in to Our Oceans Are Dying today. If you have any questions, you can reach us with this number. The music played throughout this broadcast is Glenn Miller's In the Mood.